when I told my friends I was going to Patagonia to hunt, I guess they had heard of Patagonia, but most people don't have a clue where Patagonia is and what Patagonia is. Well, you can't get much further south in the equator, south of the equator than Patagonia, which is actually a region of Argentina and Chile. And it's very much as a stepped habitat. What that means steps is that it rises about 100 feet every mile until it gets into the foothills of the Andes. And it has tremendous grasslands, savannas. It's very much like South Africa, and it's very much like the panhandle of Texas. 40 years ago, I first went to the Patagonia region, and at that point in time, I was doing a lot of natural history studies all over South America, and even discovered a new lizard species in Peru. At that time, red stags were not very prominent in Patagonia. So I was looking at the natural history of the huemul in particular, and it's my hope I'm going to go back with Forage Club International and do research on restoration of the huemul. The red stag is a popular game animal. It has a rich European history, and so as Europeans settled various parts of the earth, they wanted game species, and they wanted game species to hunt that they had at home, and so red stag was the top of the list, and that's how red stags ended up in Patagonia. Well, I'm pretty much known as a whitetail guy, but I love to hunt other deer species. I love to observe other deer species because all the deer came from the same place. They came from the tropics of Asia and came across the land bridge. And so I like to go and hunt different species and different genuses of deer and compare and contrast the differences in how these animals go about getting together for the rut or the breeding period and how they communicate with each other. When John Butler of Buck Forage Oats called me and asked me if I'd be interested in going down and hunting red stags in Patagonia, it didn't take me a microsecond to say yes. Now, I never go anywhere that I don't do my homework. And that's a long way to go to Patagonia and have a disappointing hunt. So we looked into the best outfitters in Patagonia and Argentina, and of course Emilio Paris came to mind right away. He is well known among world deer hunters. And then when I was told that a man named Francisco Minieri was going to open his estancia, that's what they call a ranch down there, Estancia Pilolil, when he was going to open it for the first time ever and allow us to come and hunt, I mean, that's a dream come true. Emilio and I found an incredible red stag, a perfect red stag. The perfection of a red stag are the crowns, and the longer, more developed those crowns are, especially if they're ivory tipped, it just makes them into a beautiful, beautiful trophy. Well, we found one who was apparently had been displaced and was moving to another area, and he went down in a drainage and just laid down. And we put a stalk on it. We had the wind. It was just perfect. We were in late afternoon. We were going to lose light, and the stag would not get up. And all we could see was the tips of his antlers moving in the brush down in the drainage. And we stayed there till we were almost out of light. And then the stag suddenly stood up and just started trotting off away from us. He never saw us, but there was no way I could or I would take a running away shot. So we let that stag go.
Well, that was my first stalk here in Patagonia after red stags. And that's a good way to start. We got right on top of one. Yeah, Juan Carlos did an incredible job of getting us there.
Down below us we could see there's just stags running everywhere, grabbing hinds, trying to steal hinds from each other. It was an incredible scene to see. But we figured out a strategy after we saw the stag that I wanted, and it was a nice stag. What we did was we circled way around downwind, and we did a stalk. It took us about an hour and about a mile. And when we got into position, we got to a point where there was no more vegetation, and it was going to be a 200+ yard shot. So I took a rest on the tree and was ready to go, and then the stag wouldn't cooperate. Just when I'd get on him and I was ready to shoot, he would take off and chase a hind that was trying to get away and bring her back, and then he would go after another one. And that's one of the problems with shooting under this situation is those stags are not static. They rarely ever stand still. But fortunately, he finally stood still, gave me a good broadside shot, and that's when that hornady bullet hit home beautifully. And the stag turned, was mortally wounded, and ran off into the upland and piled up there, and that's where we found him. Oh. Well, gracias. Thank you mucho. Thank you, Juan Carlos. Bueno, it was very wonderful. And thank you, my friend. I'll tell you what. Put this TC down. Thank you, TC and Hornaday. I'll tell you, this is a dream come true. To come back to Patagonia 38 years later and take a magnificent animal like this. You know, I manage a lot of whitetail herds, but I very seldom see a deer herd that's well managed, and this one is so well managed. You guys have done an incredible job. And this is an incredible animal. He's everything that I want in a deer. He's old, he's beautiful, and I can't thank you guys enough.